Yeah, the banker's a fun level, right? This is when somebody's kind of taking that next step. There's a little
Mhm.
more kind of buy-in on the strategy, and you'll see that through the amount of premiums that they're contributing. Usually it's going to be somewhere between maybe 5 to 10% of their income. And what you'll see here too is they're starting to redirect
Mhm.
some of the savings that they were putting into alternate or different
Mhm.
accounts. So maybe some additional 401k funds that they're redirecting back over to the policy, or maybe even a car payment, right? As they know they need to start saving for the next car. And so that's a quick, easy example for them to grab onto. And so that's what they'll start doing. The mindset of somebody here is a little bit more intentional. So in that saver phase is they come in and they're like, you know what? I'm going to put some money in here. I don't really have a plan. In this banker phase, they know exactly what they want to do. And typically that plan is going to revolve around liabilities.
Mhm.
So they're going to be looking to recapture, car payment, like I just mentioned. They're going to be looking to maybe pay off some debt or take over some vacations, right? The financing of those. Couple of examples here is this is often when somebody first gets done reading Nelson's book,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
somebody just read the book, they're on fire, they've paid, interest on car loans, for a majority of their life, and then they're thinking, man, I would love to recapture this. So that's kind of where somebody's at. I'd say we get quite a few people that are there. Another example that I recently just had is a gentleman had called in, and it was in our first conversation. He was ready to get started. The reason he was ready to get started is because he read Nelson's book, realized he had two loans
Mhm.
that were outstanding, one at 13% and one
Mhm.
at 15%. And he said, hey, I realized halfway through the book, if I could set up a policy to retake or take over that financing, he's like, I'm going to be just fine over the next 10 to 15 years. And so that would be a great example of somebody that is kind of here in this banker phase. They don't have a lot of trust in Wall Street, and
Mhm.
they've got a kind of mistrust for banks. And so, man, infinite banking really speaks to them. Some of the downsides that you'll see kind of here is that, Anthony, you mentioned opportunity cost, but the point I would make here is this one. When you get to a point where you're a banker and you start to finance vehicles, one of the biggest downsides that I'll always caution clients on is that when you do that, you take a loan, you go buy the vehicle, the responsibility or the burden of repaying that loan is going to fall on you, the client,
Mhm.
right? And so you're the one that's got to go to work every single month, go earn that paycheck, and go send that money back to the policy to replenish that loan. And if that's the plan, that's fine. But my honest opinion is that's not the best thing that we could be doing with that policy. And so, uh, what I would tell you is kind of attacking cars or approaching it that way is a great way to get started. But again, it's not the best thing that we could be doing with those dollars.
Agreed.
Lifestyle, this is where somebody, right, is kind of maximizing tax-free accounts. They along or similar to us believe that taxes are only going up, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to minimize their tax liability moving forward, and so they're maxing out these types of accounts. The stress level that you start to see in somebody when they do move from a saver to a banker is it's much lower, right? They're not tied to the market, they're not
Mhm.
subject to the volatility of the market, and to be honest, you'll see their excitement start to rise too, right? And so as they start to take over a little bit of control, as they do have a little bit of excitement that comes along with that. The other note that we have down here is the kids will be very excited because mom and dad are going to have some permanent death benefit in place. And so we thought we'd make note of that as well.
I think maybe really I started off as a banker because my first loan was to pay off my car loan.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the less stress, I remember one time my wife and I were on vacation, and this is when like Europe was in turmoil, and there were riots in the streets of Greece
Mm-hmm.
because they were spending more money than they were making, and they had to make a lot of cuts. People were just highly upset with it, and I'm watching the news, and I'm seeing the stock market just going down, 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 and down. And I tell my wife to hurry up and get ready
Yeah.
so we can go on and leave because I didn't want to see this. But then I realized, you know what? That's not affecting me,
Yeah.
right? If anything, when that market goes down, I have that's when I want to go in and buy. But you talk about the stress level. If I had a lot of my wealth subject to the stock market, and I'm on vacation, and that stock market is crashing, this would be very difficult to enjoy the time.
Yeah.
So I think that stress was a very good point, Cam.
Man, I'll share this quickly. This is back in 2008, late
Yeah.
8, early 9s, when the stock market was crashing. And I was at a golf course in Las Vegas, and I remember walking out of the clubhouse for my tee time. And there was, I kid you not, there was probably 60, 50 guys that were all standing around this TV screen, staring up at it, just watching the stock market, right, just drop. And I'm thinking, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, right? Because people go to a golf course just go and relax, and these guys were glued to the TV just watching this. It was like watching a car accident. I'll never forget that. But yeah, it was eerie. But anyways, all right, Fasto. Man, what's next up? What's after banker?
The next one we call the beginning investor. And honestly, I think this is probably where I know we're going to talk about this at the end, but I think this is where a bulk of our clients are, or maybe they want to become an investor. And what they view on their premiums, we're probably going to be somewhere between 10 and 20% of the income, but their mindset starts changing. They're not viewing their premiums as a payment. They're viewing it as a deposit, which is a huge step if you want to level up with IBC. Because if you view your premium as a payment, we want to stop payments as soon as we can. But when do we want to start deposits? Hopefully never, right? Yeah. So that piece is great. In addition, they start looking at changing their view on financial success. They're more focused, more of the Robert Kiyosaki model, where we have passive income to be more than our monthly expenses. And at this point, they probably don't have much or any, but the key thing is they are working to achieve that. And how they're going to use their policy is going to be very different than the others, because they're going to be typically using it for assets, right? And that asset could be for rental properties, investments, or business. But the bottom line is we're using the loans to buy assets. And what is key is the asset is repaying the loan. On the prior two examples, well, really the first one is scared to use a loan,
yeah,
right? But the banker, one downside of the banker is the one repaying the loan. When we're becoming an investor, we have the assets repaying the loan. Now I tell you that some of the downsides of this are, you're gonna lose some old friends.
Why do you say that?
What I say that is because you're going to want to, with typically a lot of your friends are probably doing the 401k or the traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go and approach them and say, hey, I just got a whole life policy and I'm taking a loan against it and blah, blah, they're going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Right. We shouldn't be buying. Real estate is risky. Owning a business is risky. But if you want to level up, you need to hang around people that are like-minded. So some of those people are going to be doomsayers, and they're going to be bringing you down. And when you have a bad investment or a rental property, odds are they're going to be the first one to say, man, I told you so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see how much the stock market went up today? Also, probably the biggest downside here is we got to grind, right? Because typically we have our 9 to 5, but really, so that means we need our time from 9 to 5 after we're working. That's the opportunity we have to grind, to be able to get to the next level and take this additional action and education.
You want to see the entire episode? Click here. If you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, click here. If you want to see if infinite banking is for you and you have some questions, hop on a discovery call with us and one of our coaches. The link for that will be in the description.